I, to this day, attest that nobody needs butter knives.
Hello, and welcome to Reclaim Your Radiance, a podcast where we discuss the most intimate parts of the human experience. Let's take a deep dive into self-love, sexual pleasure, and absolutely everything in between. I'm your host, Kris Hall, and each week we will be joined by one fabulous friend, and sometimes that friend will just be me, to talk about how we can all become our most radiant selves. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Hello again, and welcome back to this week's episode of Reclaim Your Radiance. And also welcome to the very first Partner Pod, a series of episodes that will air intermittently dispersed among all the other incredible conversations with radiant souls, where I sit down with my partner Aaron and discuss anything and everything, from us slowly discovering and stepping towards our ideal relationship that falls somewhere on the spectrum between monogamy and polyamory, to some of our relationship challenge resolutions, to discussing topics that are near and dear to us, as they have had a heavy hand in shaping our lives together. Come along and listen in as we banter, as we discuss, as candidly as we can, the ups and downs and bumps along the never-ending road that is a romantic relationship. To introduce my partner Aaron a little, he is a heterosexual, cisgender, Caucasian male, otherwise known as a straight white man, who was also born in Ontario, Canada, just like me, although a few cities over and a year after me. Yes, I am the older woman, and yes, I absolutely love that. For about 4 months of the year, we are the same age, and Aaron tirelessly calls me a cougar for the other 8 months. It's great, really. I love it so much. Anyways, without further ado, I'd like you to meet my partner in crime, Aaron. Oh, and I also just have to add, because as it happens, and because these things always seem to happen this way, that when this episode is released, it will be our 1-year anniversary of living together, which is super exciting and also very serendipitous. Woo, go us. And now, on to the podcast. So, doing away with our usual hellos, we are dropping straight into our discussion that came about when I mentioned to Aaron that I was all of a sudden feeling pretty nervous about talking and podcasting in front of him. So, drop on in. Enjoy.
Well, I mean, we all have the people that are closest to us, but that hardest to perform in front of.
Yeah.
It's so strange, right? Like, I always had that in terms of like audiences. Like, I can do a performance in front of a huge audience, but if I'm performing in front of one person, it's so much more nerve-wracking, depending on that person too.
I think like big audiences are not so bad, because like you can't find individual people. Like it's a crowd, it's not individual people. And I feel like 1 or 2 people is not so bad, but it's like for a group of 8 people or a group of like 6 people, because it's big enough to be like nerve-wracking, but small enough that you can see individual people's reactions and like feel like you've got like a relationship that you're like maintaining, or like a perspective they have on you, or an opinion they have of you. Like, but it's not just one person, it's 8 people you have to think of in that way.
Oh yeah, 8 people would be so much worse. But yes, you're right. Like, either it's a giant crowd or it's like individual people that all have like, even worse when they all have like individual perceptions of you and relationships with you. And it's like, oh my God, that's so much.
Yeah, I imagine that's like a challenge with the podcast, right? Is that you've got this like individual relationship and this individual persona with kind of each person or each group of people that you know, but then by being on the podcast with anybody potentially listening, it's like, which persona am I, right? Is this the way these people know me?
Yeah, I guess. I haven't thought of it like that yet.
Well, hopefully I didn't just psych you out.
No, but there's like definitely, it like audiences now dropped into us talking about how me speaking to Aaron as, you know, my podcast interviewee is actually very nerve-wracking because he's watching me, you know, do this thing that I started doing that I like doing and watch. And like, yeah, the people that are closest to you is almost hardest to show certain parts of yourself. Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually think it's well, okay, let's put it this way, is me being a podcaster almost creates a new persona.
Right.
Right. So there is this different, even though you're very much not different, it's just a different persona. And so it gets to be this, like, even if I'm this way with you and this other way with Heather and this other way with Eden, like my podcast persona is just like a fourth thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like being like an actor or an actress in a movie or a stand-up comic or something, right? It's like, it's a different part of you. It's not your relationships with those people.
Yeah. And it's almost, it's like your job, right? It's like if somebody was to see me being an engineer, it's still, that's my job.
Yeah, I wonder though, because like with being like an engineer, right? Like that's a job that doesn't change how you socially interact per se, right? Maybe it does. But with being like an actor or a stand-up comedian or a podcaster, right? Like this is about like essentially being a person, being a personality, right? And so with a podcast coming out once a week and, you know, for an hour listening to it kind of thing, obviously it's not going to change people's like perspective of you, I think, too much. But like imagine that you're like an actor or an actress, right? And like, you know, your family watches like the whole like series, like let's say you're in Friends, right? And your family watches the whole like series of Friends, right? Like, don't you think that like Jennifer Aniston's like friends or like family members that have watched that show probably like see her differently now than they used to before
you know
she
what?
was in that show?
That's probably a terrible example though, because my impression of Jennifer Aniston is that that's exactly who she is.
Well, then that's good acting, isn't it?
Well, maybe, right? Or maybe that's after she's done that show, that's now her persona that she's like, oh, actually, this is a really useful persona. I'm just going to be this whenever I'm on screen. No offense to Jennifer Aniston, but you know, it's anyways, she's a sweetheart.
I always think of her as like the horrible bosses.
Yes. Oh, that's such a good character. Oh my
so
God.
Good.
Oh yes. No, that one was fantastic, but very different from like almost every other role.
Which is why it's so good.
Yeah. But in terms of me being a podcaster, I think like, I mean, the goal for me being this is to be myself on steroids, you know, or myself just like hyper tuned into the conversation and tuned into what I believe in and what I want to do in the world, I guess.
Right.
And so in that way, I don't think it would be any different than who I am with different people, which isn't to say that I change or any of us change with different people, but we know that, you know, that when you have interactions, you just interact differently with different people for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've even kind of said that depending on who you're talking to in the podcast, that you kind of like take on their cadence, right? Or you kind of like take on their energy.
Yeah, but that's more like when you're talking to somebody, like, okay, look at us. We're both like arms crossed on the table looking at each other, right? Because when you're with somebody, you tend to copy their body language. You tend to copy their speech. Oh yeah, I'm not going to flip you off too. Thank you very much. Although I will. Yeah, you tend to take on their speech. You tend to take on, right? It's like the monkey see, monkey do. And it's like, it's a form of not flattery, but it's a form of your listening. It's a form of, I mean, that's the most engaged thing a person can do. Like if you ever want to experiment, just like, you know, be in a conversation and cross your legs and see if the other person crosses their legs too. And if they're like so dialed in, like it's not that they're not dialed in if they don't do this, but like sometimes it's so unconscious and you can tell when a person does it unconsciously and they just like all of a sudden they're just like, they're talking to you, they're having this conversation and then they do it too. Or like, ooh, the best one is drinking water.
Yeah. I was just going to say drinking things. Yeah. Because you can, the minute you pick it up, they do too. It's
that mirror neuron firing and just being like, oh yes. I mean, usually it's just us reminding ourselves, oh yeah, I'm thirsty too.
Right. Yeah.
I'm human, so I'm thirsty all of the time.
Yeah, fair. We're just too distracted from our own bodies to know that we're thirsty.
Yes, absolutely. How's it going this evening?
Good. I mean, sitting here on vacation, having a Di-Serrano, chatting with you. So it doesn't get much better than that.
Oh, well, thank you. I am pretty excited to be here with you too, my love. So,
first time on the podcast.
Well, you've probably heard me banging doors in the background every now and then. So probably not my first time on the podcast, but
that's true. Oh my gosh. It's like, I have to be like, okay, stay in that room. Don't come out of that room. Okay, I'm recording out here. Or I have to lock myself in. Well, I take over your office and lock myself in and you're not allowed to come in.
I know. I feel like a bad dog half the time.
It's exactly what you are. I mean, we joke about this all the time, but like, me being your cat and you being my dog. No, you're the dog.
I'm confused. A confused puppy.
I don't know. It's like, sometimes a boyfriend can resemble a dog. And that's an extremely insulting thing to say. But I mean, I do take you for walks when you get upset.
You do have to exercise me.
Exactly.
Throw frisbees and I just go play fetch.
Okay, so we have this thing where, so we live right across the street from the beach. And since we both work from home, yeah, sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I need fresh air. I need to get outside the house. Oh my gosh, so trapped, so cagey. And yeah, sometimes our walks and our work breaks will line up and then go and throw the frisbee around. And it's hilarious. What ends up happening is because I don't like to run and I don't have nearly as much energy as you do because you are an energy machine. And so I'll stand in the middle with the frisbee and I'll throw it to Aaron and he'll run circles around me as we throw it. So he has to throw it to a stationary person and I have to throw it to a moving person. And yeah, it gives you great exercise and then you're much happier.
It's crazy.
And in a better mood.
And then I don't have to chew up all the floorboards. So it's a victory for everyone.
Anyways, moving on from the cat and dog comparison, unless you wanted to take a shot at me with the whole cat comparison.
Nah, I'm good. You're a cat. You'll just get mad and pee on my things if I do. So.
Hey, I mean, you're the one who leaves PM towards you.
Are we sure that's me?
95% of the time, it's probably you. Slash, I'm the one who finds it, so that means it's you.
Anyway, moving on.
Moving on from pee on the toilet seat and pee in general, because that could get into a dangerous category of golden showers and the amount of times we joke about that.
Hey, we're in golden right now.
Oh my god, we are in golden.
I technically took a shower 5 minutes ago. That was technically a golden shower.
It's technically a golden shower.
It didn't turn me on like it usually does.
Clarification for all of those listening at home. That is not something we've ever tried. But if enough people tell me to try it and report back on things, we maybe consider it, maybe.
But so let's go back to our different energy levels. The comparison of me being a cat and you being a dog is very funny, but it also strikes a very real chord, which is that I have very low energy overall, even though I do lots and I'm always doing things, which may be why it's so low. And you're a very high energy individual to the point where you need to run daily to get rid of your excess energy. But then I'm an extrovert and you're an introvert, which I know is a very loaded term from our past conversations. You mentioned wanting to rebrand that term at one point. So what would you rebrand it to?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I don't think it's necessarily introversion that needs to be rebranded. I feel like it's maybe just people's understanding of introversion, right? Kind of the connotation that it has if you say you're introverted, right? I think society is moving in the way, as we are with most things, right? That with diversity, be it, sexual diversity, racial diversity, and then I guess cognitive, neurodiversity, right? We're becoming more accepting of introversion, just we're becoming more accepting of all things, right? You'll constantly see, at least I see at work, right? Emails coming out of oh, how to work with introverts, right? And it's how to be more accommodating of introverts in your workplace. And it's this is great, we're trying to be more accepting of these people that typically were left out, right? And providing opportunities for them to be socially engaged and involved. But yet there's still kind of this, I don't know, this expectation of someone who is supposed to be introverted, where you're oh, we're going to do better to accommodate these people and we're going to be more accepting of them. However, we hear someone's an introvert and we're still oh, that's somebody I would be less likely to want to invite to a party, right? Or oh, I'm putting together this spirit team that's going to go cheer at these events, right? Or something like that. And you're kind of oh, this person's introverted. That's probably not someone we would want to have on the team, right? Mm-hmm. So it's you have this idea of people, or you're oh, maybe we won't invite this person to this party because they probably don't want to be there, kind of thing. It's a lot of people, they won't want to be there. And so I feel there's still a lot of not intentional stigma, but just negative views, I think, of people that are introverted, even if those negative views are unconscious, right? Even if you think you're doing it to help people. And so for me, like, I constantly hear when I tell people that I'm introverted that they're extremely surprised and like that there's no way, like they don't believe it, right? Because when I show up 11 out of 10. You know, like I'm super loud. I'm, boisterous. I'm cracking jokes, like talking a lot, whatever, right? But that's because I am social and I am high energy. But the thing is that like spending time with people, requires energy of me, right? And then I need to go be by myself and recharge, right? And I think like the analogy that I think makes the most sense, the way I would like people to maybe see introversion is not like, oh, this people doesn't like, or these people don't like spending time with people. That's the way I think people think about it. But it's like, it's more like, no, I love going to the gym, right? Or I love going for a run. But if I go for a 30-kilometer run, no matter how much I love it, I need to like sit on the couch for a couple of hours.
And I think an important distinction there too is like I think of it like I've once heard an analogy for depression that, or any mental illness that like you get out of bed, brush your teeth, eat breakfast and put on clothes. And for you, maybe that took like a quarter of a spoonful in terms of your effort for the day and your energy and your mental energy, all this stuff. Right. And for somebody with depression, I've heard it be an analogy that, that day, because they were having whatever day they were having, they, one whole spoonful, let's say like everybody has like 9 spoonfuls or something, or they're like one whole spoonful.
Classic cat and your 9 lives here.
Yeah, exactly. So, but they took like one whole spoonful just to get out of bed, one whole spoonful to take a shower, and so like by the time you're like ready to go and like start your day doing like all your like morning routine stuff, you've already used half of the available spoons of the day, whereas somebody else might have used like a quarter of one spoon. Right. And so that's like when you say like, oh yeah, it takes me energy to like run 30 kilometers. That's also coming from somebody who can run 30 kilometers. Right. Because like I can never run 30 kilometers. It's just not me. So like what you're trying to say there is that, it takes a lot of effort for you to have that much energy around people. And that
I would say it's close, but still maybe a bit different from that. I think, for me, so I am a runner, right? And that's why I draw that analogy. But so for me to go and start running 2 kilometers takes no effort for me, right? It's very fun. I like doing it. It's not hard, right? Whereas with like the depression analogy, I think it's hard from the outset. Right? It's hard to summon that energy. This is something you're struggling with from the beginning. When I show up to a social situation, I don't struggle from the beginning. I show up and it's immediately easy and it's happy, it's fun, it's good. But by, kilometer 2, I'm like, all right, I'm feeling it. By kilometer 5, I'm starting to get a little tired. I need to drink some water. I need to take a couple breaks. By kilometer 10, like, now I can't speak because I'm like breathing so heavy, that kind of thing. And then by like kilometer 30, it's like, I can't keep running. I need to go, I need to sit down. So I think it's a bit different. And I think that's maybe what I'm getting at a little bit, is that I think people see introversion almost the way they do mental illnesses, right? And I don't want to like stigmatize or like speak negatively about mental illnesses because, that's just the fact that we call them mental illnesses at all, I think is kind of shitty, and we probably shouldn't.
It's neurodiversity.
Right? But I do think there is a key difference in the sense that I think most people, and I say most people, right, because there's again so many ways to deal with the same things, right? But I think most people that have, let's say, clinical depression, right, are consciously trying to work at or wish that it did not take them that much energy and that they could get out of bed every day, right? And so maybe for them, like managing that means accepting it when you can't, accepting that this is part of you, but also constantly working on that battle of trying to do better for you because it makes you happier and healthier to be able to do those things. Whereas with introversion, I don't think it's the same, because I think as an introvert, it's not like I need to get rid of my introversion and I need to get better.
No, I would never compare the two that way. No.
Yeah. it's more like, no, like I just need to spend more time on my own than some other people. And that's not a thing I want to get better at, or that I wish that was different, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for taking me away from the possible comparison of depression to introversion. That wasn't at all the parallel I was trying to draw. I was just thinking more from an energy standpoint and how you can run out of energy faster in certain situations if you identify certain ways. But again, thank you for your counterpoints and your clarification. That is really helpful.
And like, to put it in terms of, you know, myself as an extrovert, I think like if I was to use the same analogy, and let's scrap the fact that I don't like running and can't run 30 kilometers.
You like biking. You're great at it.
I love biking. I'll bike 30 kilometers. Let's like that. I get invigorated with each kilometer, right? Like each kilometer gives me energy to complete the next kilometer, but it still is up to a point, right? Like I still get, you know, exhausted being around people and still need to go recharge by myself, but it's much shorter, right? And then I start feeling not lonely, but I need people. Like I just, like, how many times have you just heard me be like, I just need people, right? And like, I just want to be around people. And like, I get this like sadness, even when like I spend a weekend with people, or if it's a night with people. The first time I ever noticed it was my birthday parties when I was a kid, because it would be like this big anticipated event with like multiple people. And it was like, it felt super important. And it was like, like tons of planning went into it and everything. Right. And then I always loved when people would come early and hang out with me first, so that it would like start to charge me. Like I kid you not, like it starts to charge me and like give me energy. So by the time that there's like a big group, I have like even more energy and I'm like just ready to go. Yeah. And then by the end, which I'm sure you're like, what the fuck, no.
Yeah. I'm like, I show up intentionally 30 minutes late and leave.
or a day late.
Yeah, or a day late if it's a weekend event.
Yes, yeah. We've found this pattern in weekend events where I'll go for the full weekend and Aaron will come in, you know, on Saturday, and you'll just come for one night, and it's working really well for us at the moment. Yeah, because I'm like, I want to go spend all the time with people. Like literally from the moment I get off work to like, I probably need like 5 hours at the end of the weekend to like reset myself and get myself ready for the week. And yeah, you're like, I only want 24 hours with these people.
Yeah. And I'm like, and then I gotta have some time for me because it's the weekend. So yeah, I'm gonna go on my like long walk and read and do the things I need to do.
Exactly, which I need and I like, but yeah, it's to a lesser extent. And yeah, I used to, so back to the birthday party, I first noticed it. I would just get so sad when everybody left. Like when the last person left, I would just get this like deep sadness that would settle in, and like obviously would leave, and like it didn't take too long to leave, but this happens every time that I'm with a big group of people and every time I leave. And yeah, I'm curious if other extroverts feel that same way, because I think that more than anything tells me I'm an extrovert, because sometimes I question it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, but I recharge alone too, and I like being alone. And you know, I think part of loving being alone is also just loving yourself, right? Like, and like, if you love your own company, then you're going to love being alone. But yeah.
Well, I think everybody needs both, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if you're like, oh, I'm an extrovert, you probably are, right? Like, I don't think you need to look for
what I was trying to get out there is that like when I leave a big group of people, I feel sad.
Yeah. Whereas like when I leave a big group of people, or when they leave, I feel relieved. I feel, even though I've had a great time, right? Yeah. Like I'm like, oh, I feel like I can like sigh it all out, you know? Like my favorite part, honestly, like of most like nights, if I like go out to the bar or I like go to a party or something like that, like the most sacred part of my night is like the walk home alone. Like, like I will walk an hour and a half home in like -25 because I've had a great night and I want to reflect on it now. And then like, you know, feel happy that I've had this time with these people and that I've done these awesome things, but like, I can't process it and like feel happy about it and excited about it and be like, oh yeah, I did these things until I'm like alone.
Yeah. Know? I mean, whereas I would like the perfect end to a night is always I end up crashing on a friend's couch. And so I wake up the next morning and we go to breakfast and, you know, the night continues.
Oh, I hate that. I'm sorry. Like,
no, but like, I like this like complete illustration of how different like these two different kind of.
Like I do not sleep at other people's. Like I always go home.
I love it. I absolutely love it because I also love waking up in a place that's completely different because I mean that's part of my whole like I need to move thing though, where like I'm not a creature of habit and I like to always be moving or even have like the illusion of movement. And so yeah, waking up in a different place. Even just, you know, when we were dating and not living together and like waking up at your place and having to walk home, like that gave me a little bit of like change in my rhythm.
Yeah.
But I do want to like point out the whole like 11 out of 10 that you show up and you're 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
And that like nobody ever guesses that you're an introvert unless they like know you well enough.
Yeah.
Or sorry, you're quote unquote introvert.
No, introvert's cool. I have no problem with the word introvert.
Mhm.
I just want to change the way people see it. I don't think it needs a new word.
Okay. Yeah. Like people who, you know, have maybe the wrong idea about feminism.
Sure. Yeah. Like feminism doesn't need a new word.
No, it's
at
just,
all.
yeah, maybe needs a rebranding. Yeah. Get a marketing coach in there. But so yeah, like you're like 11 out of 10 people, like they just like, you look like the absolute image of an extrovert, right? Whereas I will show up no matter how I feel. Right. And I will show up as I am. I will show up as my 3 out of 10 and even like my 1 out of 10s on rare occasion when I know that I'm going like, I know that I'm going to a place where I can be supported and that I know that my 1 out of 10 will turn into like a much higher score by the time I leave, because again, like these people are going to recharge me, like just the pure act of being around them. Even if I didn't have a chance to open up and share why I was feeling so low, I will feel higher. I just do. And so I like force myself to go. And I like recently I've been much better at just, showing up as I am and accepting that and being like, this is me right now.
Yeah.
And the earliest I remember this distinction coming out between us was like, was it a third date?
Yeah.
Like it was very specific. Like, I think you said you almost didn't come, right?
Yeah. And then you were like, you don't have to be, I think this is actually how the term got coined, right? Was that you were just like, you don't have to be 11 out of 10.
Okay. I don't think I said it aggressively. You don't have to be 11 out of 10.
It's because I was 3 out of 10. So it felt aggressive. I couldn't handle it at the moment.
Yeah. But like, I think like, yeah, you later reflected on that to me. You were like, that was a really big thing to say in that moment, because I was like, I think I just looked at you and without knowing too much about the situation, I just kind of was like, you don't have to be at 11 out of 10 all the time. You know, like you can show up as less and that's okay. And like, I'm here for it. And because like you almost didn't come or something because you weren't feeling too great. And like, it ended up being a really great date because you ended up being like so much more candid and yourself almost, because like you weren't kind of like all out there, which obviously I love, but like I love when you're a little more calm too.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I think a big part of the whole like 11 out of 10 thing just comes from being like very analytical about social situations, right? Like I think I'm acutely aware of how I'm doing in social situations a lot. Like if I make a social mistake, right? Like if I say something that I notice like kind of like irks somebody or like offends them or like, makes them feel self-conscious or something, right? Like I really notice it. And I feel like when I'm like 11 out of 10 energy wise, right, I'm like on it and I don't make those mistakes, right? But when I'm like 3 or 4 out of 10, as we all are, right? Like we're a lot of the time we're, not as focused, not as on it, right? And we kind of miss stuff and we say things, but then it's like I notice right away that I'm like, oh, that was bad, right? And I can like see that the person is a little bit like, whoa. And then those things just kind of like pile up, right? And then that like walk home at the end of the day is not like oh, this was really great, this and that. It's a very much like like crap, like I made that person feel not included because I like, wasn't paying attention and kept talking about the thing I was comfortable talking about because I was like low energy and didn't feel like flexible or whatever, rather than like talking about, picking up on a cue that they mentioned this thing that it was like, oh, that would have been something they could have talked about and would have felt good talking about, like that kind of thing. Right. Yeah,
no, for sure. But I'm curious if you've ever kind of, Because to me, when I'm feeling 11 out of 10, you're so on it that you also don't stop to think and overanalyze everything. Mm-hmm. Like you're so into the conversation, you're so high energy that like your brain isn't going there. And so I'm wondering if that's part of it too. And if like you're still potentially making those mistakes, you're just not overanalyzing them.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure that that's part of it, right? I'm sure that is happening to a degree, right? Because you have this like positive bias now.
Yeah,
everything's
you're on top of the world.
Great.
You feel like you're a fucking queen or king or whatever, right? You're just like
whatever you want to be,
jester, whatever. And you're just like, yeah, I'm killing it. I'm staying like joke, and like, you know, and like you're just on it. And yeah, sometimes I find I get like lost in this cloud of being on it, and I later reflect that I was the biggest twat, you know.
You're always the biggest twat, let's be real.
I don't know, especially when I was younger, sometimes I think back and I cringe. I'm like, oh god, stop talking.
Yeah, see, that's where I think it kind of came from, is that I think when I was younger, I was very just like confident, and I would say it probably was more extroverted, and kind of had this like devil may care attitude. Right?
Devil may care.
Devil may care. And yeah, and I just like didn't give a shit about like what other people thought. But by extension, like I also just didn't give a shit about other people in general. I don't think. Yeah, like I think in high school I was probably like a bit of a dick. I don't know. I feel like I thought I was the shit, and I like just didn't give a shit what people thought because I was awesome, you know. Whereas like, you know, all of the whole last, I would say like decade, right? I feel like in the public consciousness, there's just been this shift towards thinking about like, how do your actions impact other people? And how can we be more inclusive? And, you know, these are all really good things, right? But I feel like then I just took this turn into being like, wow, yeah, in high school, I was a dick. Like, you know, people wouldn't have said that. Like I was nice to people in general, right? But like, I did lots of things that I look back now and I'm like, yeah, that was not great, you know? And so now I feel like I'm just so conscious about it. I don't think I often do things that are wrong or like not great socially and don't notice them. I definitely still do them, but I think I notice them a lot. Like I'll notice if I like shook one person's hand or something and then didn't shake another person's hand. And I'll be like, wait, why did I do that? You know, and I'll be like, and how did that make that person feel that like I shook this person's hand and not their hand? Right?
That's so much. That must be really exhausting. Like, no offense, but that must be really exhausting to be in your head sometimes.
Sometimes. I mean, maybe that's it, right? Maybe that's why social interactions are draining.
Well, because like, I mean, like if I fail to hug somebody or shake somebody's hand, it's literally just because I'm too shy. Because I hit a point, like I kid you not, I'll have like enough confidence to hug 3 of the 4 people, but the 4th person, I'm just like, oh, I'm too shy, and I'll just stop. And I never think about it again.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, we all end up in situations like that, I'm sure, right? But yeah, I think that's a common thread in like people that are quote unquote introverted, is that it tends to be people that are like highly analytical and are like analyzing everything, right? And because they're analyzing everything, it's like exhausting, but it's also that they're analyzing themselves. And so it's like then when they're on their own, they can stop and they can just, you know, go on analyzing the world or analyzing themselves, but in a, I don't know, in like a healthy way, in a loving way, right? In a way that you're just like, well, it's non-judgmental, you know?
I mean, it's possible that you, like, because I know you became more academic after high school, and went from being the jock to being the person who everybody hates in their university class for raising their hand and knowing every single answer. Sorry.
Oh, that really helps the social anxiety.
Sorry.
Everyone hates. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not the person everybody hates. But like, I mean, that was a story I heard from your best friend who, while she was in your university class, was, you know, kind of not hate, but, you know, the person who knew everything that like
this fucking guy.
Well, right. Like it's who had like so many questions or like dragged the class on too long. You know, we all knew somebody. And yeah, like I feel like you switched to being more analytical. So maybe that triggered that switch as well.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think maybe it has less to do with that because I think I always thought that way. I just didn't think about it socially. I think it's more that I had a mix of things. I had people that were in my life that commented pretty heavily on some of my social behaviors. And then, like I previously mentioned, sort of society taking that turn towards being like, let's be more conscious about how we interact with other people, and specifically like other people that are not exactly like us, right? And I think then that way of like thinking analytically about stuff and overthinking everything, which I always did from like a small child, right? Like I would be up till all hours of the night as like a 6, 7, 8-year-old, like trying to figure out the meaning of the universe and stuff and not sleeping, right? So I was always like that.
I'm with you.
But I just didn't do it about social things until there were these triggers of people and society as a whole being like, this is maybe something you should think about. And then I started overthinking it.
Gotcha. Okay. So how does this affect our relationship? The big question, us being very different sides of the spectrum.
Welcome to the internet. No, welcome to the mid-roll. We are going to take a quick break and talk shop and give our supporters a moment in the spotlight. This week, we are supporting Puffcast, a Harry Potter podcast that I'll let them tell you what it's all about.
Welcome to Puffcast, your bi-weekly Harry Potter podcast, run by Puffs. I'm Melanie.
And I'm Juliana. Do you like Harry Potter and Fantastic Beasts?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good. Are you looking for a fun, stress-free place to just have a good conversation, play some silly games, and hear from some great guests?
Yes, please tell me more.
Oh boy, well then this podcast is for you.
We would like to invite you to join our happy common room. Get comfy, have some pizza, make new friends, and be part of the conversation. All houses are welcome.
You can find Puffcast every other Wednesday on all platforms where podcasts are found. So we'll see you in the common room. And until then, stay puffy.
And badger on.
And secondly, I just wanted to give you all a big, big thank you for listening and supporting Reclaim Your Radiance. From the bottom of my heart, it really does mean the world to me. And if you are now sitting there thinking, of course, I love being here and I want to support you on this journey of yours, how can I help? I wanted to let you know that there are 4 massive ways in which you could help the podcast. First, share this episode. Share on social media, word of mouth, or with someone you think you would enjoy it. Share it with your dog walker, your mom, your best friend, your partner, absolutely everyone. This is absolutely priceless support and I will be forever indebted to you. The second, number 2, you can use those fabulous rating buttons and follow buttons and subscribe buttons and comments on your podcast app, wherever you listen, and let myself and others know what you think. Also extremely priceless. Number 3, Therese, reach out. Let me know what you think. Let me know what topics you'd like to hear about and what your favorite episodes have been so far and why. You can also reach me on Instagram at hellovahall or by email at reclaimyourradiancepodcast@gmail.com. All of that's available in the link in the episode description under more info. And last but not least, there is a brand new Patreon and it is launching in kind of bare bones, just kind of general support capacity at the moment, but you can also sign up to get a pretty dope mug if you're like really into it, and that would be amazing. And you can just lock in your VIP support and perks for life. But at this moment, it is just general support, and then we will be slowly adding in more and more perks. And yeah, I mean, you can join for as little as the price of a cup of coffee from Starbucks. And I, again, would be so indebted to you. Thank you so, so much for being here. And now back to the podcast.
But also like so many couples you hear that one is an extrovert and one is an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's so common.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I kind of get it because in my brief stints dating another extrovert, or actually, no, I've dated extroverts for long periods of time, but I feel like there was a better cohesion with introverts because like it almost gives you like a gender role, but like not a gender role, obviously, but
just a role,
the equivalent, a role.
Like
sorry,
a gender in it.
right? Why the hell did I do that? I don't know, but that's a role that I find that's
a cat dog role. Yeah.
Yes, a cat dog role. There we go. Because all cats are girls and all dogs are boys, right?
No, absolutely.
Community. It's like Community. Anyways, go watch Community. It's great. Anyways, yeah, but like that, it's that role that gives you like this place to play. But no, because like there's no role in being an extrovert or introvert, really, or is there?
Absolutely, there is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in every conversation, right? You were, and I wanted to go back to this, but you were mentioning before, right? How like if you pick up a glass of water, will the other person pick up a glass of water? Or if I start talking in like a more calmed tone of voice, will you start talking in a more calmed tone of voice? And it's like, in general, yes, someone will lead and someone will follow. But if you put the same two people together, will the one always be the lead and the other one always be the follow? Right. And I think that's a very interesting like social dynamic to play with. And I think that goes directly back into like, why do introverts and extroverts tend to end up together? And I think it's largely that the introverts are like, I can just sit here and process and like think about what's going on here, while the extrovert is just talking it out. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then the introverts had like a couple minutes to think. You've been talking, which is great. I don't feel like I need to say anything because you just will. And then once you're done, I can like put out my opinions, say what I say and what I've had a couple minutes to think about. Right. I don't feel this pressure to keep the conversation going, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's not even that I have any pressure or I feel any pressure whatsoever. Although when there's like an awkward silence, if it's not a comfortable silence, I will sometimes say something just because I'm like, oh my God, but that's only because I don't know a person. With you, obviously.
Yeah, but not with us.
No, not with us. Like we can have comfortable silences forever. And we even sometimes are like, okay, stop talking. We need to have silence. Okay,
we're claiming a 5-second silence right here, right now, to honor the introverts and the extroverts.
Okay, let's all
ready?
Have a moment of silence. I have no idea if that's been 5 seconds. Yeah, we both went into like this prayer position without even talking or discussing. We both just like.
But somebody probably did it first, and then the other person probably copied them.
Maybe, but I really don't want to start thinking about who's doing what first and who's leading the other to something.
Yeah, because then you'll end up like me, overanalyzing every social situation.
I don't want to do it because if I did that, I wouldn't be able to talk.
Yeah, why do you think I can't talk
sometimes? Oh my God, yeah. Man, that's.
I'm joking. I'm making it out to be more dramatic than it actually is, obviously.
I know. But yeah, no, I mean, I'll just say something, right? If something's on my mind, I just say it. And I definitely process by talking through things. Actually, I'm half and half. I process things by myself and by journaling and by thinking, and and then I have to like finish the processing and like get feedback sometimes by saying it out loud. And then once I say it out loud to somebody, sometimes it cements itself or sometimes it like refutes itself and it's like, oh no, that's dumb, I'm not doing that. And then there's some people who do like completely the opposite, right? And if like you have to process things internally, right?
By myself. Like it's really hard sometimes to like have a conversation and like be making an important decision about something like while having a conversation about it. So like often I've found like I just need to be more upfront about that and be like, okay, this was a good conversation. Like I can't make a decision at the moment, but I'll get back to you in like half an hour, you know? Like I'm just going to go for a walk and think about it and then I'll come back, you know? Yeah.
No, it's really funny actually, the moments where, and this used to like really catch me off guard, I think, when we first started dating, because like you can't think through things when I'm in the room and when I'm around you. And I still haven't quite figured out what constitutes me not being in the room, because our apartment is, you know, just one amorphous blob with like a couple little pockets. Yeah, it has multiple rooms.
We got 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, we got 2 bedrooms, but
like a main living area. It's big enough.
Anyways, but sometimes, you say that because I'm around, you can't think through something. But then, you'll be like, okay, I just need to go think through this by myself. And like you leave, you go on a walk, you come back, you're like, okay, and you have like what takes me days to think through that you just thought through in like 10 minutes by yourself.
I mean, I feel like that's an exaggeration, but yeah.
Well, you probably already had an idea beforehand, but yeah, no, the whole like not being able to fully process if you're by yourself or needing to talk to somebody to process. And I think maybe that complements each other very well with a couple where like, because if both of you need to talk about stuff all the time, like you may, always have that conflict. So I think it kind of almost removes some conflicts, but then it adds other interesting layers of conflict because, for example, us going away for a weekend and I want to go for 2 days. I want to go and maximize my time with other people. And you're like, absolutely not. I need a day to myself to recharge. And yeah, reconciling that has been an interesting journey.
Yeah, it's challenging, but I mean, it's like anything, right? It's just learning as you go along, taking lessons learned and applying them. So, I mean, we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We're failing sometimes, but we're like mostly succeeding, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what happens, right?
Yeah.
Mostly succeeding, sometimes failing. And that means that 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah.
You get there eventually.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like the hardest thing really is just kind of about the space, right? It's not those weekends away and stuff like that, right? Because like we figured that out, you go for the full time and I go for part of the time. Yeah. Easy, right? But the hard thing, right, is the like 5, 6, 7 days a week, like being in the same living space, right? And then being like, oh, well, you want me to be around in that living space, right?
Not always.
Oh, definitely not always. Yeah. But like, like you want to live together
with someone, yes.
Right? You like, whereas like for me, I'm like, ideally I would live alone, right? Like, and obviously I want to live with you, right? Like I love you, you're my partner. But for me, like the ideal situation is kind of that, like I've got my own place and we still see each other like most days of the week, but then like I could go back and like be in my own place.
Yeah,
right?
which I would be happy to give you if we had boatloads of money.
yeah. I didn't care about our environmental footprint of having multiple households.
Yes.
But and we've kind of tried to do that in the apartment, right? We've kind of like been like, all right, this is kind of like Erin's area and this is sort of Kris's area, and like try to delineate some places where we can go to like be on our own. And it's a work in progress, trying to find stuff that works.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, the whole living situation. And I mean, we moved in super early.
Yeah.
Spurred forward by a couple things. One being that I was no longer happy with my current living situation. And then your lease was up.
That and like, it was like, the spring.
It was a good time for it, right?
Yeah, it was like the spring and COVID restrictions were like starting to lift, and like Vancouver's housing market, well, renting market anyway, had been like in the shitter because everyone left the city, right? Because they didn't have to like work downtown and all went home to their families. But then like as stuff started opening back up again, it was like all of a sudden the apartment prices were starting to go up, and we're like, yo,
we had to get on it.
If we are going to move in together, so we could move in together now and pay like 60% of like what the rent would be on this apartment normally because it's so low. But if we wait a month,
it was because we were looking at like, okay, perfect time would be like in a few months from now, but let's just push it up because we're happy enough to do it now. And we did it for convenience sake.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's not uncommon, right? Like, obviously you want to be mindful when making life decisions like that, right? And I think we were mindful.
Other than the drunk moment where I blurted it out to you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But I think it's still quite common though, that people are like, ultimately partnership, like there is this reality to it, right? Where like
you want it to be romantic and sweep you off your feet, but it's realistic.
It's like we're family unit, we're roommates, like from the beginning of time, people have been in families because it's been, helpful, it's been necessary, right? And so it's like I don't think we can like shit on ourselves too much and look down on ourselves too much
No,
because
no,
we
no.
moved in a bit early out of convenience. Like that's
No,
totally normal.
I was just saying I forgot that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I totally forgot that there was a timing thing because we were like, yeah, I mean, but summer, that's an awful time to move. We don't want to move in the middle of summer because it would take up one of our precious summer in Vancouver weekends.
Yeah, it was way better to do in the rain.
Yeah, I mean, just put all our stuff in an open face truck and move it,
and
3
let it get
blocks.
rained on. Yeah, luckily we didn't go far.
Yeah, honestly. I do want to briefly tell the story, though, about how I shouted to you blackout drunk about moving in.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Oh my gosh, such a good story. So essentially, shout out to Eden because Eden, my friend Eden, we were introducing each other's partners. I don't think anyways, it was a nice celebratory dinner and many bottles of champagne were ordered. And oh man, I knew, when you know that drink is going to be the one that just knocks you and anyways, I stopped remembering things and apparently said some things on the cab ride home, which you were gracious enough to not talk about until the moment. So we were together on
just before the cab ride, babe.
Oh shit.
It was at the table.
Oh,
Eden went to the bathroom.
Oh God, it was. Oh man, I thought it was in the cab. I was picturing it in the cab this whole time.
No. You were blacked out in the cab.
I know.
You were passed out.
Well,
in the
no,
cab.
I was blacked out when I said this to you too.
No, but you were unconscious in the cab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Difference. Right.
No. The only thing you were saying in the cab
Don't
was
drink, kids.
That's
Oh
the
boy.
only thing you were
I
saying in the cab.
really hate when I get that drunk, but I do. I really, really do. Not remembering stuff is kind of scary. But yeah, so essentially this was like Friday night or something. And then like the next day we were, I think we must have slept in the same spot and then like woken up early the next morning and we were going to go skiing.
You're jumping the gun on this story. You didn't even say what happened. You just jumped the gun.
No, but it's because when I remembered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like that was the evening I blacked out. I didn't know. So next morning we wake up, we go skiing. And so we wake up in the same place and then you go home, shower and like bring your skis. And like we were meeting at the car. And so I remember so distinctly like coming to the car and no, it was in the shower. It was in the friggin' shower. So I was showering at my place and like, I don't know, maybe those delta waves were just like, going and like picked up some old memories from the night before. And just all of a sudden I knew what I had said. And I thought, oh, fuck. Oh no. Like I wasn't that panicked because like at that point we were like strong enough that I was like, no, this is fine. We can get past this. Like, even if it was completely out of left field and Aaron's not feeling the same way, it's going to be fine. But I had a recollection of me drunkenly telling Aaron, oh no. And I knew that I'd mentioned it. I knew that I mentioned moving in together in like more of an aggressive way because we were planning to go to IKEA. And the thing is that my bed was awesome and Aaron's bed was ridiculous.
It was great, but it worked.
I mean, it fell. I'm pretty sure we fell to the floor when the bed frame broke.
No, it was okay. So it was like IKEA slats, right?
Yeah, but it was the worst one you could get.
And the IKEA slats. No. Okay, so in defense of my bed was fine when I bought it. But what happened was I lived in this really old, tiny like micro studio in Gastown in downtown Vancouver where the buildings are like built in the 1800s out of like brick and have no air conditioning. And there was a summer of like heat waves when I lived there. And what happened was it was so hot in my apartment. It was like 40 degrees in my apartment, 40 degrees Celsius.
Oh, is that why there was sweat stains all over the mattress?
Okay. This is
so
not
gross.
roast Aaron Day.
It's so gross. It's always roast Aaron Day.
It's always roast Aaron Day. And basically what happened was in the heat, my like bed frame slats like warped. Like the wood warped.
I forgot about that.
And so that's why
I just remember falling off that goddamn bed so many times.
And so that's why the like bed no longer worked properly after that. So anyway, Kris, you still haven't actually like told the story of what you said.
I'm sorry.
All you did was say
we had
it,
like
you
a
remembered.
drink of alcohol, and so I'm slowly just getting more drunk, and then like the heat is like insane in this place. Anyways, yeah. So essentially, I just had like this inkling while I was showering that like I said something to Aaron about moving in, that I had been having these thoughts, but we hadn't actually said anything out loud yet, right? Like we hadn't discussed it in any real shape or form. But because I really wanted to make his apartment a little more homey, because he refused to come to mine because he felt uncomfortable being an introvert, not being, comfortable around other people all the time, wanting to be in his own energy and also mine because of the partnership we were entering into.
And your roommate situation was not great.
Yeah, it was a little awkward. And so, so Aaron didn't like coming over. And so I ended up at his place a lot. And so there was things that were missing, like butter knives. And
I, to this day, attest that nobody needs butter knives. What do you need them for? You can spread butter with a steak knife.
When I met him, he had the most insane bachelor apartment with no butter knives and not enough plates or cups or, like anything. And so I was like, okay, Aaron, I can't. I need some basic things.
Minimalism?
Yes.
I lived in a micro studio.
Yes. Aaron's perfect excuse for
two
everything.
forks and 2 cups. I had just enough to have someone over.
What about more than one person?
Then we would go to a bar.
Oh yeah, you wouldn't
somewhere.
fit in the micro apartment.
Yeah, you wouldn't fit in the micro studio.
At least we know you're not compensating.
Yeah. Hey, micro's not necessarily bad these days. Like computer chips just keep getting smaller and smaller, and they're more and more expensive. So
and more powerful.
Small is good.
Yeah. That power comes in small punches.
That's what I'm telling myself.
But so anyways, there was a couple things that I turned to Aaron and said, okay, I would really love for you to have these things. And if we're going to continue in this situation and you don't want to come over to my place that much, I would like to have these things. And Aaron kind of agreed, especially when I floated the idea of having a real, adult sized desk that wasn't like a child's desk from IKEA that he's doing his professional job on at home, which is hilarious.
Never grow up.
I agree. And we are very childish together. And I love that. But also I was using it as a bargaining chip. And so I dragged him out to IKEA and that was the plan, drag him out to IKEA. But on my mind, because of this trip, I knew that, we'd have to have the bed conversation because his bed was awful and it just kept falling apart. And like literally we would end up on the floor. Like it's like this like really like flimsy frame. And then the slats would just fall out. And then all of a sudden we would just be on the floor. And I'm pretty sure it happened like in the middle of the night, even like while I was sitting there reading, like, because there wasn't any other chair there was those awful leather couches, but there wasn't any place to like really sit. So I ended up sitting on the bed and then just like falling. Like, could you imagine just like sitting there writing your nightly journal and then all of a sudden you're just like the bed falls and you're just on the floor? Like, it's awful. And so
I thought you wanted to be more grounded.
I do, but not in that way. But yeah, anyways. And then there was like, I wasn't a fan of the amount of pillows and the amount of sheets or duvet. Anyways, sorry. It's not roast Aaron night.
It's roast Aaron night.
Yeah, it's roast Aaron night. Anyways, I love telling a story because of all of this. It's fun. But I was like, what do I say about the bed? Because he will ask. And my thoughts were, well, I have a really nice bed. And if we move in together, we're going to use my bed. Because I bought a beautiful mattress a couple years ago and a beautiful bed frame. And it was my first legitimate adult purchase. And we were just going to throw his out. And that was in my head. That was like, okay, that's my idea. Mine was also bigger. Mine was a queen and yours was a double. And so I didn't know how to have that conversation. And so I spit it out when I was drunk. And I believe the words out of my mouth were, you were the one who actually remembered them.
Yeah, I was the one that was conscious.
Yes, please tell me what I said.
Yeah. So we were talking about, IKEA furniture and what we were going to buy, and eventually got to beds. And I was like, oh, well, I should probably get a new bed because like mine's kind of falling apart and it's kind of shit. And Kris just looks at me and like, while grabbing the table because she's so drunk to steady herself. And she's like, you don't need a new bed. We're going to move in together soon. Just like really drunk. Yeah, it was awful. And I was just like, okay, well, your friend's going to be back from the bathroom in a second. And let's just not address this right now because you're not going to remember you said this in the morning.
Oh my
anyway,
God.
So
that imagery of me grabbing the table is new too. I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I remembered something along that line in the shower. And then we went to meet up the next morning. And I just looked at him from across the car and went, did I say something to you last night about IKEA and moving in? Or I don't know what I said. And you just nodded and you said, yep, we can talk about it on the way there.
Yeah.
And then I started waffling about and I started being like, okay, and like trying to cover my tracks and trying to like, make it all softer blow or something. And then I eventually just stopped and took a breath. And I'm pretty sure you just looked at me and said, do you want to know what you said? And you were like, do you want to know what, actually, no, it was, do you want to know what I think?
Yeah.
And thankfully we were on the same page.
Yeah, it was okay. It all worked out.
It all worked out. And we said a year, but it ended up being 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think that's the only real like big drunk whoopsie we've had.
Yeah. Do you think?
I don't know. Anyways.
I don't.
Well, of that nature, that's hilarious and fun to tell and ended up being part of a major life event of ours. But yeah, no, so living with an introvert is interesting and definitely learning how to best meet your needs.
Yeah, and vice versa, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, people do it, right?
Yeah.
So many people are doing it. And I think like maybe the most validating thing for me is to just like have met other friends of yours, right, who are extroverts, and then like I end up like talking to their partners at like a party or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of comes up, and we're both just like, "Wow, this is a lot." And the other's like, "Yeah." We're like, "Oh, you too? Oh, okay. I'm not a weirdo." Like,
of course you're not a weirdo.
No, I know. But like, I mean, I feel like I've got like good role models, like as like adults that have been together for a long time, that like one of them is an introvert and one is an extrovert. And like I think of like Miss Henderson, like my like high school like environmental studies teacher, who she's like very extroverted and we're like homies, and her husband Josh is just this like just super introverted guy. It's like pretty smart guy. He's like not anymore, but he was an early Tesla engineer. And like really interesting guy to talk to. Really like had like thought through everything and always had like really like interesting insights. But yeah, you could just tell that after like, being there for like an hour, right, that it would be like, Josh does not want to be here anymore. Right. And I remember in high school kind of thinking it was funny because at that time, like that was not me. But like reflecting now, I'm just like, wow, Miss Henderson is a lot like Kris and I'm a lot like Josh. Like,
I mean, actually, you touched on an interesting point there that, I feel like it wasn't just you, that as a society, we used to kind of poke fun at it. We used to be like, oh, haha, that's the partner who doesn't want to be here. Yeah. Who like seems awkward and like is out of their element. And like, it used to be this negative thing. And it used to be like, oh yeah, we can like, they can be the butt of the joke and you can drag them in. And like, it was made fun in sitcoms and like, there was so much about it. And like, that's not funny. And that's just who they are. And they're put in a situation they shouldn't have to be in if they don't want to be there. Yeah. Like, right. It's, we definitely poked too much fun at it. And like, there shouldn't be any shame with it. It's, whatever you need, do it. Right. Like, yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I think we're past the like poking fun at it stage. I think like society used to be very like, let's poke fun at anybody that's different in any way. And obviously that wasn't great, but I think we're pretty past that. Yeah. I mean, it still happens for sure. But it's not the mainstream way of thinking, right? Just like, racism definitely still happens, right? But like the conscious mainstream way of thinking, like people are trying not to be racist, I think, right? Yes. Nobody would ever like call somebody like a racial slur out in public now, right?
That's not true, but in the communities we're thinking of,
yeah. Sorry, and when I say nobody, right, like I'm not like, obviously that's speaking in absolutes, and that's like not correct, but because some people still do, and it's a problem, and we've still got to work on that. But what I mean is that like mainstream, your average Canadian, right? Your average. I was going to say North American, but maybe I'll take that back. Like would not in a public setting, at least, even if they hold those ideas or still think it's funny on their own, they know socially, like in public, it's like not acceptable to do things like that. So I think like we're past that point when it comes to like making fun of people for being an introvert too, right? But I think where we still got to go and like improve on is not needing it to be like a crisis in order to respect it. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Like,
and we still have that problem too. Because
yeah.
like sometimes we don't respect it if like one of us isn't in tears.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like for me, oftentimes one of the things I struggle the most with is when it's time to leave, right? And not everyone, but there's always that one or two people that are like, oh no, don't go. Like the party's just starting. Like, oh, like, no, man, come on, don't be late,
Mm-hmm.
Because to them, it's just casual, right? You're like, I've got to go. I'm just going to go do my thing now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually very stressful, right? When someone's like, no, don't go, don't do this thing. And you get to the point where you have to be like, look, like, real talk, I'm experiencing social anxiety right now, and I have to leave or I'm going to have a panic attack. Right.
Yeah.
And now it's a big thing. Right. And then people are like, oh, I'm sorry, dude. Like, my bad. Like, get out of here. Like, cool, go do your thing. Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, we should just accept what people need and what people want and just let them like kind of casually do their thing, rather than like push it to the point that now people are at a breaking point and they like,
right.
And they have to express that they're at a breaking point and then feel kind of exposed because now they have to tell someone that they didn't want to tell, that they're like on the verge of a panic attack because they need to go if they don't.
Yeah. And like,
right.
That sounds very like scarily familiar to, somebody not accepting a no in terms of like any sort of consent, right? Like that's consent to stay. You're saying, no, I'm not comfortable being here. I want to leave. And like, just because this consent has nothing to do with anything sexual doesn't mean that it's still like not respecting a boundary, not respecting your levels of consent.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I mean, consent is like a challenging thing that we're all working on, right?
That's a big topic. Let's not touch too far on it, I guess.
You don't want to go there today? I feel like it's a really interesting conversation.
Yes, absolutely. A really, really interesting conversation, but definitely one for another time. And with that, we come to the end of this week's episode of Reclaim Your Radiance. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope you enjoyed your time with us and came away with something truly valuable. If you want more and simply cannot wait until next week, come join us online. We have a couple of really exciting communities that are being built. First, we have a Facebook community with the name Reclaim Your Radiance, where we talk about all sorts of topics related to the podcast, and tons that aren't. It's a community of like-minded souls who want to dive deeper into these things and keep the conversation going. Secondly, you can sign up for our mailing list to receive bonus content and stay in touch with what's happening in the world of Reclaim Your Radiance. And lastly, coming soon to a computer near you is our Patreon. Come along and join us for extra content, regular community meetups, fun swag, one-on-one time with yours truly, and so much more. Stay tuned for that. Head on over to the episode notes and the show description to find those links, and I hope to see you online soon. All right, everyone, until next week, stay radiant.